In order to cross-tabulate the interval scale variable income with any of the nominal or ordinal variables in this file, we have to collapse the income figures into a relatively small number of classes, which can then serve as the columns or rows of our cross-tabulation. We begin by finding the minimum income and the maximum income. We go to the Analyze command, the Descriptive Statistics Frequencies sequence. We move income from the left panel to the right. On the Statistics button, we check the minimum and the maximum. We continue. We don't need the frequency tables, so we won't display them. We'll click OK, and the output now shows the minimum and the maximum. In this particular version of SPSS, this column is not wide enough to display the minimum and maximum income figures, so I'm going to widen it. I'm going to double click in the file, and then I'm going to drag the border of this column out to a point that's wide enough to accommodate the minimum and the maximum figures. Here, the minimum is $39.27. The maximum is $99,720.45. These figures tell us that the first class in our recoded variable must begin at a point small enough to accommodate an income of $39.27. The last class must end at a point high enough to accommodate $99,720. With some idea of where the first class begins and the last class ends, we now decide on the number of classes to use. With a range of incomes of almost $100,000, it seems sensible to use 10 classes, each class containing $10,000 income increments. In collapsing these numbers, we are transforming the data. We're recoding the data, and it's always a good idea to recode existing data into a different variable. The reason is, if we recode into the same variable, we change the original numbers. That's not a good idea. If we recode into a different variable, we keep the original numbers and we have the new numbers to work with. So let's choose recode into different variables. Here, we move income from the left panel into the input variable panel, and we must give the output variable a new name. Remember, with most computer programs, if you change one character in the name of a variable, it is treated as a new, different variable. Let's call this variable income1, and we'll also give it the label income1. Notice there's a button here, old and new values. We're going to click that because we need to tell SPSS how to define these classes. The first class begins with the lowest number in the column, which we know to be $39.27. This first class will run from that $39.27 through an upper limit value, which we're going to set at $10,000. Every income now that is up to and including $10,000 will now be recoded 1. We will add this range to our old and new panel and proceed further. Now let's define the other classes for our recoding. The second class begins at $10,001 and runs through $20,000. Every value, every income between $10,001 and $20,000 will now be recoded to. The third class will begin at $20,001 and it will end at $30,000, and every income in that range will be coded 3. By now you can sense how this is working. So I'm going to go ahead and type the numbers to see if I can speed things up a little bit. By the way, it's important to note what these ranges are, because we're going to be returning to these in a subsequent video. Now, we have reached the 10th or last class. In this case, the range of incomes in this class will start at some value that we specify here, and then it will end at the highest value in the column. Following the procedure we've been using, this last range will begin at $90,001. We'll go through the highest, which is $99,720, and every income in that range will be recoded as a 10. So now you see why this is called recoding into different variables. These various original income figures will now be each coded with these numbers here. Now that we have defined the range of classes for our recoding procedure, let's click Continue. And nothing looks ready yet. When we clicked Change, the OK button lights up. When we now click the OK button, a new column appears, Income 1, with our recoded variable in this column. Let's just look at the variable view screen for a moment. You can see that the additional variable income 1 has been added to the variables. It's been given the label income 1. We're going to change that in a follow-up video. It's still considered a scale variable. Let's change it to ordinal, since these are ordinal classes which range from the lowest incomes up to the highest incomes. So now we're ready to correlate the ordinal variable income 1 with the nominal variable sex, the nominal variable age category. The education is itself an interval variable, even though it's identified here as nominal, and the degree category is somewhat arbitrary. But that's the recode into different variable command sequence, and it's very useful when we have interval scale variables that we would like to cross-tabulate with nominal or ordinal variables.